Welcome back into Fox 13 News. Well, after a decade, Governor Jay Inslee says he will not be running for re-election.
So who will be his successor? The primaries aren't even for another year, but that race is already starting to heat up.
In this week's Political Roundtable segment, Fox 13's Hana Kim discusses if the governor's endorsement can tip the scales and the chances of a Republican becoming governor after a 4-decade drought.
Joining me now are Fox 13 political analyst Cathy Allen, who's a Democrat political consultant with the Connections Group, and Randy Pepple, a Republican and founder of ShiftWashington.org. Thank you so much for joining us today, guys. The governor's race, I know it's kind of a ways out, but a lot of people are talking about it already. We know that Governor Inslee kind of passing the torch, as you would say, to Bob Ferguson. He's been endorsed. But I did speak with Dave Reichert when he announced his bid, and he said, I wanted to jump in the race. That was one of the reasons, he said, because he felt like voters did not have a choice, and he didn't want it to be like this torch passing along type of situation. So does Dave Reichert really have a chance, though, in a very blue state? I guess that's the question I want to start with.
He absolutely has a chance. If the issues that we're talking about a year from now are around public safety, if they are around the size of government, if they are around taxes, if they're about the cost of energy. If we're talking about those issues, Dave Reichert can win. If we're talking about Donald Trump and abortion, that's a much bigger mountain to climb.
Actually, I don't think he can win, and it's because of those two factors. I mean, Dave Reichert, when he's talking about public safety, is a charmer, and he's actually been somebody who has been very direct in terms of what people want to hear right now, which is a sense of sanity in a cop. What's happening here is that we're seeing that, you know, too many people, particularly women, are saying, I'm not going to vote for someone who's not pro-choice. And second of all, I'm not going to vote for a Republican that still can't say one bad thing about Donald Trump. They just won't. And from that, what I do want to offer is that there's a third candidate. This candidate, Mark Mullet, who's running as a Democrat, who's a moderate, that Randy and I had an opportunity to spend some time with this week, frankly, is somebody who is pro-choice. He's anti-Trump. And, oh, by the way, he is somebody who has a record of financial, also working for affordability here in Washington State. I think he could be the second person next to Ferguson that makes it through the primary.
Right, you're talking about the three Democrats, Hillary, France, Mullet, and you've got Ferguson. But on this side, I want to go back to Reichert, because during my sit-down interview with him, he made it clear that he is not for Mr. Trump. So he's not on the side of Mr. Trump. He's a different Republican in that way. So does that help him? Is that enough?
Well, the Democrats won't care. I mean, the people running Bob Ferguson's campaign are just going to say Dave Reichert is Donald Trump. That's all they can say. They're going to say abortion, Donald Trump, because that is their platform. I mean, Jay Inslee's fourth term is not something anybody in Washington State wants, but that is what Bob Ferguson wants to deliver. And so he has to change the subject, because if we're talking about higher gas prices, Bob Ferguson loses. If we're talking about the size of government and state government doubling under Jay Inslee, Bob Ferguson loses. And so that's why he wants to change the subject as quickly as possible, not talk about public safety, certainly, because there, former Congressman Reichert, former Sheriff Reichert, will clean the floor with Bob Ferguson.
One thing about the abortion issue that was interesting in his answer to me was he said that even if in a hypothetical world the state legislature here came back and said, you know, we want to ban abortion in this state, he said he would not sign it because he feels that that is an issue for the voter. So in that way, he is not for him as the governor, if he were to be governor, to mandate anything on the abortion issue. Does that sway anyone's mind on that?
Not anyone who matters in this case. I have to say that women just won't hear it. And the fact is that young people are even worse. People under the age of 30 hear this and say they're infringing upon my right. And I've talked to Dave about this because he has lots of other positive things he could be talking about. But the minute he gets anywhere close to choice, pro-choice, the fact is that people don't hear it.
And so it'll be up to Democrats to decide. Do they care about safety in the streets, or are body parts the most important thing that's going to dictate the vote? Democrats are counting on body parts, not safety in the streets.
And endorsements matter at this point? I mean, you've got newspapers endorsing candidates, you've got other candidates endorsing candidates. Does that really matter at the end of the day?
Well, it does, because when a governor endorses you, you get his list, you get some of his supporters, but you also had an event that then the media wrote about. So you got free publicity.
I think that that's not true. I think this is in a time where endorsements have lost their swing. I think that what people are saying, I'm going to vote, particularly post-pandemic, people are saying, hey, look, I have a mind of my own. I have the voter pamphlet statement. I have some other information. I want to make my own mind up. The hell with them.
So that means if a candidate comes to you, you would tell them, you know what, don't waste your time too much in endorsements. Do something else.
Yes.
But you're saying get the right endorsements.
Hey, if you have the ability to have the endorsement of the person who is the head of your party, you want that endorsement.
It's better than not having it, right?
Better than not having it, better than your opponent. It's one of those things in campaigns, you just don't want your opponent to have an advantage. So even if you don't necessarily want it, you sure as heck don't want your opponent to have it. And in this case, getting the endorsement of the governor, while it doesn't help him in a general election, in a primary election, the Democrats are the ones who put Jay Inslee over the top in the last 3 elections. Bob Ferguson now has his imprimatur, and so that should help him in that primary, getting enough of the Democrat vote to advance to the general election.
Unless you think, of course, that Reichert can't win, and then you'll vote for the other Democrat because he's much more moderate than Ferguson.
And voters are rarely that tactical, and we know that, Kathy. I mean, voters don't go, well, my person isn't going to win, so I'm going to vote for the other one who's my second choice. No, they vote for the person that they like.
That's in the past, Randy. The fact is things are changing much faster, and I have watched it in terms of the numbers.
All right, let's agree to disagree, everyone. So thank you so much for watching this segment. If you have topics for us that you want us to help break down, because there's a lot of complicated, issues out there, reach out to us on social media at Fox 13 Seattle.